Okay, should we make a start? Perhaps with introductions? If
Absolutely.
I start, my name is Jemina Napier, and this is my sign name. And I've worked at Heriot-Watt for almost 10 years. I'm in the Department of Languages, so I've been involved in research, of sign language interpreting, also managing the UMASLI, which is the European Masters in Sign Language Interpreting Program. So I've taught and I teach and I research and so on. That's me.
Hello, and I'm Marion Fletcher. I also work here at Heriot-Watt University, and I've been working here now for nearly 10 years, so a similar length of time as Jemina. I'm a BSL interpreter, and also I am responsible for coordinating the team of in-house staff interpreters here at the university. That's me. So over to you, Gary. I'm Gary Quinn. I've been working here at Heriot-Watt for over 16 years now. I started here teaching deaf students who wanted to become teacher trainers. And when that work finished, I moved on to teaching on the BSL interpreting degree from first year students to fourth year students. And that's, in summary, that's me. Over to you, Robert.
Thank you. My name's Robert Adam. I work here at Heriot-Watt University too. I started here around 3 years ago, so I'm still relatively new. I teach BSL interpreting, BSL linguistics, and deaf studies. I'm also involved in some research projects, and I lead the BSL team here at the university.
Gary, would you like to kick us off to explain the first point, which is around the support from Heriot-Watt for the BSL plan and work?
Yes, I mean, Heriot-Watt has a very keen support and is committed to supporting BSL here at the university, and we've seen that over the past years. We started teaching a diploma course here in BSL, and we've seen that grow over recent time to become a recognised, accredited qualification to allow students to become registered qualified interpreters on graduation. I think up till now we've had 11 cohorts of students go through the programme, and we're hoping to see that continue into the future. We have good relationships with other universities, not only in Scotland and in the UK, but also globally. We have international relationships with other universities.
Just to add to that, when I first arrived here at Heriot-Watt, I think, Gary, you were working here, and we had 2 other members of staff. So really 2.5 other people working here. But now we have a team of over 20 people working in the BSL section. So we have 7 staff, which is the core staff team. And of those, we have 5 deaf and 2 hearing. So that's a big change in the time I've been here. But we also have many research assistants working on different projects. And we have honorary research fellows and researchers. Plus we have PhD students. So we have grown a great deal to over 20 people in the team now.
Yes, and also to add to that, Jemina, what's different compared to previously is that we now have this staff interpreting team as well. So that's 3 more staff members in the overall BSL team. So really our team has grown a lot. It's a big change compared to before.
Just to add to that, we also have quality teaching of interpreters and deaf studies. We have a well-known research centre here that's known internationally and has a fantastic reputation within Heriot-Watt and worldwide, which does research through interpreting, deaf studies and deaf lives. It's cutting-edge research that's taking place here at Heriot-Watt University, so it's a wonderful place for people to come and be involved with the BSL community.
And Heriot-Watt has really shown its commitment to BSL, and certainly did recently when we had the 1821 appeal, where we fundraised. And that was to look at different groups of students who may find it more difficult to get into university. So Heriot-Watt identified one group as being deaf sign language users, and they would need more encouragement to engage in university. So we actually raised over £200,000 to support deaf students to engage in university learning. So
Wow.
hopefully we will see more deaf students entering university. So that's a big commitment.
linked with technology, sorry,
Fine, it's fine.
We have a VLE, which is online teaching, so we can work remotely and record students' work and give feedback through this environment. We have 16 lab stations where our students can practice their interpreting and film themselves, and also work into English in that manner too. Sorry, back over to you, Marion.
Thanks, Robert. I just wanted to add, it's lovely to see the senior staff at the university. For example, the principal, Richard Williams, this is his sign name, and also Ruth Moyer. Both of them have been really supportive in thinking about how we can promote BSL here at Heriot-Watt. So, for example, nearly all the principal's events have BSL content, and any public-facing event, for example, inaugural lectures, or, well, we have another recent example, the research festival that we recently had in SoSS, different events always have BSL content, and it's lovely to see that. And also, to add to the fact that we have interpreting students in the university studying BSL, we also have sign language using students in other subjects across the university. And I hope to see that number growing in the future, and we'll have more deaf students coming to study at Heriot-Watt.
Maybe that will be helped through the recent signing of the MOU between the Memorandum of Understanding between Heriot-Watt and the other 3 universities in Edinburgh. So that's Edinburgh University, Napier University, and also Queen Margaret University, plus Heriot-Watt. So that's 4 universities. We all offer something to do with deafness, deaf studies, and sign language, and each of us takes a different stance on that, has a different flavor of what we offer. But we have undertaken a large review of what was offered from those universities, and Heriot-Watt led on that, and we looked at how we can work together more closely, and that culminated in the signing of the MOU. And we had a prestigious event back on the 23rd of September where we launched that, and we talked about how we are working together and how we each are working in different areas relating to deafness and sign language. And the signing of that, I mean, really just consolidated and formalized a relationship we already had, but it means now we can work more strategically, and we can work towards shared goals and visions. And we meet together every quarter. So we have representatives from each university coming together so that we can actually share our work and support each other with that. And really, that means that Edinburgh hopefully will become the centre, the place where anyone who's deaf or wanting to study anything to do with deafness and sign language will be attracted to come here to university, because we have 4 universities offering something for everybody. And that really supports the work that we do here.
It's great to see that.
I think it's also worth mentioning the BSL Act, which passed in Scotland. We have this in place, which was passed 7 years ago at the Scottish Parliament. So this then means that public bodies, including universities and organisations, have their own local plans in place. Heriot-Watt also has a plan in place, which shows our commitment to BSL. And it focuses on improving accessibility for people who use BSL. So that's great. So this local plan will be launched, and it demonstrates how BSL can be incorporated more into our work across the university in terms of our website, different events, and distributing information also in ways that people can communicate with us in BSL. So we've got the support from senior management, the EDI committee. So Ruth Moyer, for example, the university is involved in this BSL local group, which is very exciting for us.
Yeah.
It's great, isn't it? And talking about BSL here at Heriot-Watt, we have to remember that Heriot-Watt is actually a global university. It has 5 different campuses all over the world. So we have a campus on Dubai, Malaysia, and 3 campuses here in Scotland. So it's interesting to think about the challenges involved with that in terms of EDI work. And when you look globally at the university, how can we make sure that our EDI work is definitely international? So it's interesting to think about that. maybe, for example, in different locations, for example, in Dubai, there are different challenges. Perhaps in Dubai, there are challenges related to gender that we don't experience in other campuses. Other campuses perhaps have their different issues. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on that? What do you see as the key challenges?
That is an interesting point. I think it would also be interesting if there was a deaf student who was studying in Malaysia and came over to study in Scotland. It would be a challenge because the sign language is completely different. Of course, Heriot-Watt would find a way around this, but it's extremely important to be aware that sign language is different across different countries. So it's another interesting point in terms of linking in our campuses. Of course, the campuses in Scotland will all use the same language in BSL, but over in Malaysia, it would be different. So it's interesting to think about the future and how things will look going forward.
Absolutely.
I think it's also important to recognize that often when we talk about EDI, we focus on gender or disability, but actually we're talking more now around neurodiversity and other things, or where there are divides, where there are gaps, where people who want to become an academic, for example, and want to work in academia. We are positioned very well in Heriot-Watt, especially for deaf people wanting to enter academia and study and work in this setting. We can do some work on capability and capacity building so that we can address that disadvantage and that gap. So we can actually grow the resource and grow that number of people. But we have to consider the intersections that people have. So somebody may be deaf, but also be Black, or they may be deaf and also be a wheelchair user. So there are overlapping and intersecting characteristics that can increase that divide and that disparity for people and that difficulty of getting in to this university in the first place. So we want to be opening the door and actually addressing that gap. And I think that's really important for us to think about.
Yes, it is an important point. And when you think about, encouraging diversity within the staff and student populations, whether that be people who are neurodiverse or deaf people or deaf-blind people, all these different perspectives bring a real value to the university, and the university will benefit from that.
That's very true. And I also just wanted to add, in terms of the BSL Act, Scotland have different services that will provide information in BSL. And it's also an expectation that we then would be able to train more people out in the workforce, so that we'd be able to have hopefully more teachers, more social workers, and more professionals, for example, nurses, who are able to use sign language. This is something that the Scottish Government aim to achieve. They want Scotland to be the best place for deaf people to live and for people to visit. So it's very important that BSL is embedded in courses so that they're able to learn how to use the language, and EDI being demonstrated on a global setting and allowing people to have access to Scottish services.
Absolutely right.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.